Welcome to the latest addition to the Compliance Podcast Network, the podcast 10 for 10, which brings you the week's top 10 compliance stories curated together in one podcast each week. Tom Fox, the voice of compliance, brings you the compliance professional stories you need to be aware of at the end of your busy week. Sit back and in 10 minutes, hear about the stories every compliance professional should be aware of. Every Saturday, 10 for 10 highlights the most important news, insights, and analysis for the compliance professional, all curated by the voice of compliance, Tom Fox. Get your weekly filling of compliance stories with 10 for 10. Hosted by Tom Fox. 10 for 10 is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network. First, a word from the sponsor of the Compliance Podcast Network for this month, Ethico.
In the intricate world of ethics and compliance, each second is precious, and slow case closures are more than just delays, they're missed opportunities. Enter Ethico. Our solution revolutionizes case management, cutting closure times in half and turning every challenge into a chance for improvement. Imagine a workspace where efficiency and compliance coexist harmoniously. Don't just dream of faster resolutions, make it your reality. Visit ethico.com/CPN today to book a demo and dive into our exclusive white paper by Tom Fox, the ROI of compliance, and to try our free ROI calculator. Empower your team with the tools they deserve.
10 for 10 for the week ending June 8, 2024. First up, from the Wall Street Journal, Risk and Compliance Journal, Richard Vandeford reporting that Chinese battery suppliers tied to Ford and VW should be banned, according to GOP lawmakers. Contemporary Amprex Technology, the world's largest maker of EV batteries, should be added to the import ban list as well, according to two lawmakers, or lawmakers who sent two letters to the Biden administration. The lawmakers called for these entities to be listed under the Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act, saying that they were using forced labor to build their EV batteries. Next up, also from the Wall Street Journal, Risk and Compliance Journal, Mingy Sun reporting in this article that the SEC is closing its Salt Lake City regional office this year due to significant attrition. This was the only regional outpost with authority for a single state, and regulators said it planned to move the jurisdiction for Utah to its Denver office. The announcement caps a tumultuous 2 months at this office in connection with the failed enforcement action against the cryptocurrency platform Digital Licensing, also known as DebtBox. The decision to close the office was related to, but not the sole result of, the SEC's failure, according to people familiar with the matter. So don't lose a case to the SEC. They may close your office. Next up, bad news for Marcus Braun, the former CEO of Wirecard, as his top lawyer has left his defense team because he can't pay his defense bill. You know, don't you love lawyers? It's a major setback, obviously, for Braun, who's accused of orchestrating Germany's greatest corporate fraud. The lawyer said that monies or funds to pay ran out last month after the D&O coverage was exhausted and the former chief was unable or unwilling to pay him directly. Gee, I wonder what would happen to Trump with that. Next up, there is a very large safety scandal growing in Japan, and the Japanese Transportation Ministry raided the headquarters of Tokyo. The world's largest car maker has apologized for providing inadequate or manipulated data for safety test certifications. The scandal has shaken the entire Japanese automobile industry, obviously a very important industry in Japan, but Toyota is the only company to have been raided to date, so we will definitely keep our eye on this one. And finally, in one of the most watched trials around of recent years, former Autonomy CEO Mike Lynch has been found not guilty of all charges in the criminal trial brought by the U.S. prosecutor in San Francisco, hometown of HP, where it was accused he engaged in fraud to get HP to buy autonomy. Congratulations, Mike Lynch. Our next story is our third story from the Wall Street Journal today, once again from the Risk and Compliance Journal, and once again Mingy Sun reporting that some of Wall Street's biggest private equity firms said they are negotiating settlements with the U.S. market regulator over their employees' use of banned communications channels. Blackstone, TPG, and Carlyle Group all disclosed in their latest quarterly filings that they've been cooperating with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission about having begun discussions with agency staff resolving these issues. Under SEC rules, financial firms are required to preserve and monitor their employees' written communications, which creates a paper trail for regulators to monitor and enforce compliance with federal laws. So it looks like these firms will join the billions of dollars already paid. Next up, Boeing has presented a plan to the FAA for systemic change, and it will face increased scrutiny in the form of government inspections and limits on production. The aerospace giant has presented the plan to regulators, and the FAA said they continue to meet weekly with senior executives to monitor its implementation. Obviously, implementation is where the rubber hits the road, and the meaningless words from Boeing senior management are not going to get the job done. So, although Boeing's outgoing executive, he of a multi-million-dollar bonus from last year, said that the company was committed to the plan's execution, but will have to continue to work under FAA oversight. So Boeing is still under the gun, and they are going to have to execute in some manner on this plan that they have put forward to not only improve safety, but improve their culture. Next up, in a very interesting case, the Citgo 6 or 6 Citgo employees who were sent to Venezuela for a meeting with Citgo's owners, PDVSA, and then immediately arrested and held in jail in Venezuela for nearly 5 years, have sued Citgo, saying that Citgo knew what was about to happen to them. Now, Citgo is owned by PDVSA, and it was PDVSA that engineered this horrible act, of course, in connection with the Venezuelan government. And whether that liability can be imputed to Citgo as the corporate underlords of PDVSA is going to be an interesting question. This is tied to the sale of Citgo, which is being auctioned off to pay for outstanding debts from held by U.S. companies from PDVSA, who has stiffed them. And so these Citgo 6 are essentially going to be creditors, but their struggles and time in jail will now have to be looked at by the courts and certainly any new buyers. It's going to be very interesting to see what the buyers do with Citgo, if they just dismantle it, cut it up, and sell it, or they keep it as an ongoing business. And our final story is once again from the BBC, which reports that the British bank Standard Chartered is accused of helping fund terrorists. The bank, which escaped prosecution for money laundering, carried out billions of dollars, court papers allege. New documents filed in a New York court claim that thousands of transactions of more than $1 billion were carried out between 2008 and 2013 in breach of sanctions against Iran. The sponsor for the entire Compliance Podcast Network this month is Ethico. Have you ever wondered how to show the ROI of your compliance program? Have you struggled with the budgeting process, getting the funds you want for your compliance program? Well, I've partnered with Ethico to put together a white paper on the ROI of compliance, which shows you not only how to demonstrate ROI, but also how to speak finance when you're sitting across from the CFO with your budget proposals. Check out the website and get the white paper. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of 10 for 10. I hope you'll check out the newest podcast in the Compliance Podcast Network, the Compliance Tip of the Day. In Compliance Tip of the Day, I give a 5 to 8 minute summary of one tip that you can integrate into your compliance program or put together for greater compliance program efficiency.